All right, so this is going to be kind of a mini series. It's not my truck. It's my buddy John's with Broncos R Us, but we have it here in my shop, and we're doing all the magic's happening right here. So John and JJ with Broncos R Us have been doing a ton of work getting this thing ready, stripped down, ready to go, cleaned up. And then Brad with Riding Shotgun Adventures, he's been over a ton, assisting with everything up to this point. And so from this point forward, this is where I'm mostly involved in doing most of the fabricating, welding, and mocking up of stuff. So I guess I'll do a little mini series of the build, and obviously include everybody else who's here helping and putting in the work. So let's get started. All right, here we are working on John's Bronco 2, Broncos R Us. I'm sure you guys follow him as well as me. If not, make sure you do. So now we're at the stage of the game where I come in mostly. Brad with Riding Shotgun Adventures has been helping with the wiring and all the engine stuff, cam swap, getting all that stuff figured out. So the motor is in the truck. Brad's got the harness pretty much wired on the motor side of things. He went ahead and put the front dress on, the belt, all that stuff yesterday. A couple weeks ago, I did notice that the motor and transmission were kind of cocked and angled. So I did go through and make the motor level side to side, and then, well, side to side, and then the tail shaft was what? Tail shaft was what, John?
Toward the driver's
side?
Bit, yeah.
So now the tail shaft is just straight between the frame rails. The motor, I guess it is level side to side, is what I was meaning to say. We got it at about 5 degrees right now just for mock-up. John's got his Atlas. That's the Atlas adapter ring to the Dana 20. And right now, you guys are getting the studs in.
Yep.
We already lifted the Atlas up, and there's basically 3 settings on the Atlas. I want to say it's what, 22 degrees, 42 degrees, and then it must be 30 something degrees, I think. So I think we're in the middle one. So you can only go as high up as we have clearance for the frame. So John's putting in the studs right now. They got this heavy duty Loctite on them. So let's do the old double nut trick, get those in, and then we'll have the T-case back up on the adapter. So yesterday morning, John, Brad, and I, and JJ, they mostly got the axle put together. Knuckles out, wheel bearings, all that stuff. Axle, RCVs. Before that, we did go through and get the zip locker fittings drilled and tapped. We used the front port, which is the factory vent. So we enlarged that to a quarter MPT.
Get pictures of that axle and I'll list it.
And then the truss already had a little access hole, but we went a little bit bigger just so we had enough room for sockets and whatnot.
You go until it stops.
And then underneath the truss, there's a little bolt that holds the factory brake line T. So that's just bolted in, RTV'd. And then there's a little dimple back here that we just drill and tap to make the new vent line. And then we just recess the truss for the hose. So this truss is Next Adventure Motorsports. It's just awesome. The way it fits, the design. So that thing's ready to go, ready to get welded to the axle. So we're gonna weld that today and get this Atlas clocked, and then go from there. All right, so what's the trick, John? What's our process here? Just double nut them and...
Double nut them, tighten them up. That's spinning on me. We're taking that in until the threads are pretty much gone.
Yep. Yes, these are what, flanged, what do they call that? What's that called? So, serrated. They're serrated flange nuts, so
they don't come off.
They don't take much to lock them together. We wanted to use some junk nuts, but these are a fine thread, which I don't got. Sweet. All right, so John and JJ got the Atlas clocked. We're at the, 25 degree setting, which is one higher than where we've been able to do, because now the front, like I said, the drivetrain's all nice and straight, pointed back. So we got almost an inch of space, which is great. So let's get that truss tacked on, and then we can get the frame marked center, get some marks going on that, and get the axle under their center. All right, so John and JJ are over here getting some center marks put on the K-member, probably the oil pan, just a couple, 2, 3, 4 marks center. I'm gonna get this truss tacked in place and then welded, and then we'll mark center on this, and then we'll put the jack stands on some rollers, get this thing set up, centered, and get some measurements going. Or you look at 28.5. All right, so we got the, or John and JJ got the center marks. Got a front point, a rear point, so that way we know we're centering in the middle here. Transmission pan and up here, so.
Take a double checker.
And right now we got, I just finished welding up the truss. Now we're marking center on the axle. Then we'll get this on the floor, jack stands on the rollers, and get her in place.
Food in our belly.
All right, we got the axle underneath the frame. And then something before, I don't know what the deal was when we did this initially, but we had the tie rod underneath the knuckle, which is not what we wanted. And I don't know why we didn't investigate it more when we did it, but this time we figured it out. All it was is just moving the tie rod to the top like we wanted, same height, nothing else is, no parts have changed. It's just instead of a castle nut with a cotter pin, you run a nylock lock nut. And then there was about 3/16 of an inch of thread showing, so we shaved it off, but there's plenty of room now for true high steer and high, tie rod over the knuckle. The higher that is, the better, so you're not going to hit any rocks or obstacles. We got the steering gear back in. We just had to clock our oil filter relocation block a little bit. So that's all set. There's a gap in there, so that's good. I already, weeks or months ago at this point, that's that, 97 to 99 or whatever it is, Moog Pitman arm for a Super Duty. It gives us that extra inch and a quarter of length. It's flat and it's way beefier than any of the stock shorter style. And the cool part is, obviously, it uses the same spline for the gearbox, which is why it works. And then just ream out this side for the GM 1-ton taper that we're using. As far as the tapers in the knuckles, we're running, basically you drill through straight 7/8 holes, and then there's tapered bushing inserts that we're running to accomplish that in both knuckles and then the high steer end over there. Truss is fully welded on, so the mock-up begins. Looking good. Atlas is all mocked up. Got that set. So super happy with the progress here. Just kind of recap. Obviously we tore it all down. The body's in the air. The frame was stripped. Brad and John and JJ started plating in from the K-member, motocross member back a little bit. So that's all been plated. Brad took care of all the wiring on the motor so far. Brad's done most of the welding on the plate stuff. And then I'm coming in now more so to start doing the 3-link and the steering setup and the buckets and the Ories. So everything's pretty familiar with the 2, 3, 4 different trucks I've done or helped on. This is going to be very similar to the yellow and white one I did for our buddy Jeff Banghart. The only difference is Jeff's had an LS versus the, we're running the 302s, 50s. But yeah, as far as the axle being pushed forward, it should be very similar to Jeff's. It's just Jeff's was still a James Duff long arm, radius arm kit. So again, this is similar, but again, different from what we've done. We got the Atlas in. It's a 3.8 to 1 box versus the stock Dana 20 J shift, which only has a low range of 238 to 1 or 236 to 1. So not a very low range. So John bumped up to a 3.8, which I think will be perfect. He was running 513 gears in the axles to try to make up for the low range with the Dana 20, but that gave up street drivability a lot. Having a C4 trans, 3-speed, 513 gears, you're pushing 3,000 RPMs. So we decided to let's go 456s for street drivability. He bumped up from a smaller 37-inch to a 40-inch tire. So the larger diameter there is also going to help with the ratio. So street, he's got the power of the motor, 347 stroker, 456 gears, 40s will be great. Lower RPM with the C4. Off-road, 3.8 to 1 times the 456 gears. He's going to have almost double the low range that he had, I think. Don't quote me on that, I'll have to figure it out, but significantly more low range than what he had. So this truck should be just absolutely amazing on the street and absolutely amazing off-road. So again, the front is a full width Dana 44 from earlier F100, F150. Full width, but it has weld-on wedges, which is the key point. Weld-on wedges, you can easily just cut them off, and then you have nothing but a nice naked tube to do whatever suspension setup you want to do, versus the most common 78, 79 full-size F-150 Bronco axles. That whole section's cast wedge. You can't do anything else with that without basically re-sleeving it or re-tubing it. So, in my opinion, a full width Dana 44 high pinion Ford axle, this is the way to go if you're planning on doing something different than a radius arm setup. All right, so as far as the rear of the truck, he's been running a Ford Explorer 2nd Gen 8.8 axle, which is built. It has full Yukon C-clip eliminator chromoly axles in it, and that actually does add 3 inches of width overall. So he's in between a narrow width and a full width currently, but he has a 9-inch housing ready to go, and a third member that was ready. It was already geared with 513s and ARB, but obviously plans changed, so now he has to have that re-geared to 456s. So we'll be getting the 9-inch full width housing in the truck as part of the deal here. The rear is going to stay leaf sprung for now, at least a year, and then down the road we will 4-link the rear. So it's going to be fairly easy to swap the 9-inch in. Just take this one out. We got a U-bolt eliminator kit from Rough Stuff, I believe, for the spring purchase for the 9-inch. And that way, and it's also a 2-inch offset spring perch. Right now we're an inch back from stock with this setup, so the 2-inch spring perch from Rough Stuff will knock it back an extra inch from what we have now. So at that point, he'll have the axle he's going to run, and that'll have disc brake conversion kit on it, and also chromoly axles, and those will be from Quick Performance is where we've been sourcing that stuff. So bolt-on disc brake kit, super cool. And then that way he'll have a legitimate full width matched axle set front and rear, and ready to go. So it's gonna be sweet. So follow along. I'm gonna do video throughout the series. Well, I'll do a mini series on this as I'm involved, and share the information that we do and come up with. So thanks for watching. If you're not subscribed to me, please do. If you're not subscribed to Broncos R Us or Riding Shotgun Adventures, please do. And then our other buddy Brian Racy with Random Adventures with the Ranger Truggy. Check him out too if you're not already subscribed. And we'll see you on the next stage.